an original MCM production.
Good morning. We'll call the meeting of the full commission to order. Will the commission secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Bowl?
Here.
Commissioner Eli?
Here.
Commissioner Gramling?
Here.
Commissioner Harris-Dodd?
Here.
Commissioner Krieger?
Here.
Commissioner Manzanet?
Here.
Commissioner Martinsek?
Here.
Commissioner Perez is expected. Commissioner Swan?
Here.
Commissioner West?
Here.
Commissioner Hermes?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Approval of the proceedings of regular commission meeting held September 26, 2016. Move approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner West, the second by Commissioner Manzanet. Are there additions or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, for approval of minutes, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. The minutes are so approved. New business is item 16004-1, the operations maintenance report for September. Pat and Scott, please.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Patrick Obanoff, District's Manager of Contract Compliance.
Scott Royer, Veolia, the General Manager.
With the operations and maintenance report for September of 2016. In September, we were in full compliance with our Wisconsin Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. Veolia was in full compliance with the operations and maintenance agreement. We did have a pretty significant wet weather event on September 7th that initiated a combined sewer overflow. We did not have any separate sewer overflows with that event or with any other events in September. We did utilize our combined sewer wet weather flow treatment process at Jones Island. Both of those we'll get into a little more detail when we talk about the conveyance and storage system. Overall, our year-to-date percent capture, 99.7%.
Okay, this table shows both the influent and effluent characteristics for both water reclamation facilities, and they were both within their normal range. This shows Jones Island effluent biochemical oxygen demand and total suspended solids. And as you can see, they're both below the permit limit as well as the contract limit. This is South Shore's effluent BOD and TSS, and again, below the permits and the contract limit. It shows both Jones Island and South Shore effluent fecal coliform. And again, we're below the permit and contract limit. This shows Jones Island effluent total phosphorus, and again, we're well within the permit limit. And South Shore's effluent total phosphorus for the 6-month limits, and again, we're well below that.
Moving into the conveyance and storage system, you can see in September we had above average month for precipitation, which we did have that one event, 109 million gallons of overflow. Again, no separate sewer overflow events year to date. This is a graphical representation where you can see the above average precipitation for September and some of the details of that event. Mostly the rain fell on September 7th. We did overflow from about 6 o'clock on September 7th through the morning of September 8th. Total of 109 million gallons of combined sewer overflow. the deep tunnel reached a maximum volume of 366 million gallons. I'll show a graph or a map that shows the precipitation over the whole service area, where you can see the combined sewer area was hit pretty hard, which ends up sending a lot of flow into the tunnel, a lot of runoff directly into our sewer system and into the tunnel. We utilize the combined sewer wet weather treatment process at Jones Island in an amount of about 36 million gallons. That helps to reduce the combined sewer overflow volume. And here's the map, a little bit fuzzy, but you can see the combined sewer area, which is a beigeish color in the center of the map, 3 inches pretty much everywhere in there. We got other areas in the system too that had quite a bit of rainfall, but again, because it hit the combined sewer area so fast, or so hard, the inflow very fast. Moving into biosolids, the top part of this graph, the green line shows the product request from our MMSD's marketing group. The orange line shows the cumulative malorganite production, where you can see at September we're just about caught up where they're equal. The bottom of the chart shows the silo inventory, where you can see we ended up September with about 3,800 tons of product in the silos, well below our operational maximum of 10,000 tons.
Okay, this graph shows both preventive maintenance as well as corrective maintenance. Work orders open over 90 days. As you can see, it's moving up a little bit. Some of that is because of the holding projects up for the annual D&D building shutdown, which actually started today. And so we hold projects up so that we can get into equipment that we normally can't do work on while it's operating. And then some of it also is because we've been doing a lot of work in D&D, and that has delayed some work in other areas as well. So we should be seeing that go back down to the more towards the mean as we go along. And we had no safety incidents for the month of September. And what I would like to point out that as of, even though we're not reporting for October, as of last weekend, we've gone 2 years without a lost time incident.
Okay, I want to update the commission on a few things. The first is emergency declaration on the Jones Island Harbor Siphons conduit. We declared that emergency on August 8th. The harbor siphon structures have the gates that limit the amount of sewage that gets into the treatment plants, so the conveyance system can deliver more flow than the plant can process. So the gates throttle that flow to what we are able to process. If we're not able to control those gates, more flow will come in, flood the plant out. We'd end up overflowing or spilling out different places, and those would be permit violations. So we declared the emergency back in August, did some investigative work to find out what the problem was, where the problem was, identified what we were going to do for a solution, which we weren't able to fix what was right there. We ended up having to kind of reconstruct the conduit and cable system, design that work. The field work is about halfway complete with a target completion date mid-November. We have the conduit installed. The remaining tasks are to pull the cable in through the conduit, install the motor control center hardware, which starts up the motors for the gates as well as controls the gates. So the logic system in there that automatically throttles those gates up and down, and then as well as to test the whole system to make sure it's operating properly. Have a couple pictures. The left picture, the left building, is one of the harbor siphons influent structures. We kind of light, but you can see there's new conduit up there, as well as the tray system that holds the conduit and cables between the two buildings, which the building on the right in the left picture is the inline solids handling facility. Both of those buildings are built on piles, so we don't have the settlement problem, which is what was the cause of the failure of the conduits that were placed underground. That conduit, on the picture on the right, we have a red arrow kind of pointing to it, but that conduit is strung along that building then and then over to our operations facility where it connects with the rest of the system and the power distribution system. Also wanted to update the commission on the dewatering and drying facility, where last month we kind of highlighted some of the issues we're facing there with equipment being worn out and breaking down, some moisture issues where moisture is collecting in certain parts of the system. Also, the issues we've been having with keeping our air pollution control equipment operable, and then the safety risks that are a continuing issue that we face in D&D. We talked about what we're doing to address these issues. Back in early 2015, when we identified that there was a rise in the amount of repair and replacement work needed there, we conducted a review of all the equipment, got several projects lined up. This year, we've realized that we're still not able to get ahead of it. Things are failing faster than we planned. We're doing another review, which we're about halfway done with right now, to identify additional projects that we need to try to complete to get ahead of the failures. So as of the last commission meeting, solids were building up in the plants because we were only having 4 or 5 dryers available sometimes, where we needed 8, 9, 10 dryers to keep up with the amount of solids. Our ability to temporarily store the solids in the plant was at our limit, and we ended up having to start up our plate and frame press operation, where we produce press cake rather than send those solids into Milorganite. We also highlighted that because of the situation we are in, there was a potential for additional emergency declarations, as well as we were planning to request additional authority for the executive director so that we can expedite some of the repair and replacement projects, as well as we'll identify additional project work that needs to be undertaken. In the months since, due to a lot of consistent hard work by Veolia's staff to get a lot of the dryer maintenance work done, they were able to get back 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and even 11 dryers back in service as of last week. They were able to get the solids down in the plants enough that we were able to, as Scott said, start the D&D shutdown this week, where it will be down for 10 days for a lot of additional maintenance work that can only be done when the whole facility is down. During that time frame, we have enough temporary storage capacity to store the solids at both Jones Island and South Shore, some of that storage space at South Shore being in the digesters. We also declared one emergency due to the situation we are in. That was on October 6th, related to recycle bin number 2. The screw conveyor that pulls material out of that recycle bin and sends it back through the recycle system broke. We have, because of the emergency declaration, we were able to contract directly with Marshall to get the manufacturing of the screw conveyor and gearbox going. We expect that project to be completed by late December, early January, at a cost of about $64,000. And a picture showing that conveyor at the bottom of the recycle bin. Be happy to answer any questions.
If I could jump in real quick before questions, just on the rainfall, we've seen a more active period this fall, beginning late August, as you saw with the overflow we had then. And we continue to see it. We are allowed up to 6 combined sewer overflows per our permit. We've had 2, and I thought we were going to get through the year without one, but had some heavy rain in early September, and even a week and a half ago we had heavy rain on a weekend. So we're still managing the storms, but it seems to be more active rain pattern than what we've seen in the past in the fall period.
Bramley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a comment and a question. Scott, congratulations on the record, the string of days and months and years now without a lost time incident. That's a really fantastic record. You all should be proud, and we are as well. So thank you very much to you and to your employees for that success. Pat, I don't recall, my memory could be failing me, but I don't recall in past reports regarding the D&D facility issues mention of the air pollution control equipment. And are you in a position to either elaborate on what questions or concerns may exist related to that, and also whether or not we are running the risk of any violations of our air quality permits with the DNR.
Sure. We brought it up, that same slide was presented in September. We didn't talk about it much, we didn't highlight it. What happens there is if we're not able to keep the air pollution control equipment within certain parameters, operating within certain parameters, we have to shut that dryer system down so that we don't violate our permit. So we will not violate the air permit that way. But that's what ends up causing us to have to take dryers out of service sometimes. And we did have a number of electrostatic precipitators that take out some of the fine particles. They use very high voltage electricity to do that, a big transformer, as well as a lot of little pieces of equipment in that precipitator, and we were having some trouble keeping all that operable. We were able to overcome it. It just took some time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen, for your report this morning.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the Operations Committee report. Committee Chair Krieger, would you lead us through that report, please?
Yes, good morning, everyone. The Operations Committee did meet on October 10th, and we considered 3 separate items, which were all recommended for approval or referred for approval to the full commission. Item 1 was a contract for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning improvements at the Jones Island Water Reclamation Facility. Item 2 is a contract for engineering services for the South Shore facility. And item 3 was approval of a funding agreement, City of Milwaukee, Mequon, excuse me, City of Mequon, private property inflow and infiltration reduction pilot project. As I mentioned, all 3 of these were referred to the full commission for approval, and I will make that motion to approve the 3 items.
Second.
Thank you. The motion made by Committee Chair Krieger, the second by Commissioner West. Is there further discussion upon these items in block? On the 3 items on the table, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. The 3 items are approved and so ordered.
And that concludes the Operations Committee report.
Thank you, Commissioner Krieger. Moving on to Policy, Finance, Personnel Committee report. Committee Chair Manzanet, would you lead us in that report, please?
Absolutely. Good morning. Thank you. We did meet on October 10th, and we had discussed 13 items. I would like to take certain items out of order with your permission to move forward with a motion on items 5, 6, 7, and 8, 10, 11, 13, 14, and 15. And I'll make the motion for recommend approval.
Second.
Okay, the motion made by Commissioner Manzanet, second by Commissioner Krieger. Is there further discussion upon the items as listed in block? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Those items are so approved.
I do want to, item number 14, 16-129-10, recommend for approval, and recognize that we will have 1 abstention, and Commissioner, item 4.
That's on item 4.
Item 4. I recognize that there will be 1 abstention with Commissioner Ben Gramling.
Excuse me, are we on 14 or 4?
4.
Thank you. So the motion is made on item 4.
The motion is made on item 4.
Is there a second?
Second.
The Motion by Commissioner Manzanet, second by Commissioner Ely. Is there any discussion upon those items?
Mr. Chair,
Please, Mr. Gramley.
just to be clear, as I did at the committee meeting 2 weeks ago, I would like to abstain from voting on item 4. Thank you, Commissioner Manzanet.
Thank you. Is there further discussion upon these items? Will a roll call be necessary? No. No. Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 4 has passed and is so ordered. Mr. Manzanet.
I would also like to introduce item number 9, 16-134-10, levy of taxes for Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewer District, capital purpose for 2017 fiscal year. This does require a 2/3 affirmative vote from the full commission.
And you so move?
I so move.
Second.
Thank you. The motion by Commissioner Manzanet, second by Commissioner West. Is there further discussion upon this item? Seeing none, will the Commission Secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Bohl?
Aye.
Commissioner Ely?
Aye.
Commissioner Gramling?
Aye.
Commissioner Harris-Dodd?
Aye.
Commissioner Krieger?
Aye.
Commissioner Manzanet?
Aye.
Commissioner Martinsek? Commissioner Perez is out of the room. Commissioner Swan?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Hermes?
Aye, the motion is carried, and the item is so approved. Commissioner Manzanet.
The last item would be item 16, which is 16-141-10, approval for the acquisition of the plot for the Milwaukee River Flood Management Project, including acquisition of land for the Easterbrook Dam removal. I so move to approve said item.
Thank you. The motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
The second by Commissioner West. I'm sorry, Commissioner Krieger.
Not a ventriloquist.
And we do have several people wishing to speak upon this motion, so I will hold commission comment until after we hear from the residents. First, we are in receipt of 2 communications, one from Mr. Rod Pugh, who is in support and has drafted an email to us. One in opposition from a Richard Yar, who is in opposition to the passage of this item and has voted so in a communications to us via email. We have several on hand wishing to speak. We will call them one by one. When you're called, please come to the center podium and give us your name and address for the record. And you will have 2 minutes to address the commission with your support or opposition. First up in that regard is Martha Spencer. Who I should note is indicated speaking in favor. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Martha Spencer, and my address is 6116 North Sunny Point Road, Glendale, 53209. So it seems like I've been speaking to the same people again, and I will just keep my comments short. I am a resident of Glendale, and my property is in the floodplain. And my life and my property are pretty well controlled by FEMA, so that whatever I need to do with my property is through the building inspector in Glendale is controlled by FEMA, so that improvements have been rejected, and the improvements that have been allowed have been more expensive for me. For instance, raising my garage by 3 feet because of the flood fringe. And I gladly accept all those limitations, and I gladly pay the flood insurance. because I know I made that decision to be where I am. On the other hand, it seems to me that in terms of our area, and maybe areas everywhere now, it's important to prioritize the extreme weather events that we're having and the damage that can happen and the costs that can happen. Certainly, I could lose my property completely. And so I'm really here just to thank you for becoming involved in this issue. I don't really understand it, but I do know that you are here and charged to deal with these sorts of matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Jeff Gooley to speak in opposition. Mr. Gooley? Going once, twice. Next up would be Mr., I believe this is Herb Olean. Please rise. Thank you. In favor of, Mr.
Good morning. My name is Herb Eckler, 8220 Harwood Avenue, number 138, Wauwatosa. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm a board member of the Southeast Wisconsin Trout Unlimited chapter. We have 1,000 members in southeastern Wisconsin and a few hundred in Milwaukee County. Our board and almost all of our members favor removal of the dam. A free-flowing river tends to heal itself, and because we're interested in cold water resources, we like to see the trout and salmon have access upriver and downriver according to their biologic needs. Being the Milwaukee River, it also has a lot of warm water species and forage fish, and they have the same needs. It'll reduce the accumulation of silt upriver and mitigate flood problems. From an economic standpoint, I think it makes a great deal of sense to remove the dam. You save a lot of money, and the taxpayers in Milwaukee County, the city of Milwaukee, can use a break, and the money could be used on the park system. I took a walk on the Henry Aaron Trail in the Tosa Village the other day, and one of the bridges, the boards were decaying, it caved in. There were the bridge was usable, but there were signs, watch out, watch your step type thing. So the parks need help. Thank you very much, and we're happy to see that MMSD and your allies are on board and trying to remove the dam. Thank you.
Next speaking in favor of is Cheryl Nin.
Good morning. I'll be brief. You've seen me before.
Address for the record.
My name is Cheryl Nen. I'm with Milwaukee Riverkeeper, and we're at 1845 North Farwell in Milwaukee. On behalf of Riverkeeper, we support your efforts to purchase this land and to demolish Estabrook Dam. As we've said before, we really think this is a generational opportunity to really right a wrong that's happened in the river, to improve water quality, improve fisheries, and dramatically decrease flood risk all at the same time. There's very strong public support for removal. We have a petition on our website with over 1,800 signers so far. And we really do think that the public is on our side and thinks that removal is the best thing for the river. We've been advocating for removal for probably well over 10 years now. And we filed a lawsuit, and a court has declared the Estabrook Dam a public nuisance, and that happened back in, I think, in 2012. But we really think it makes sense for MMSD as the designated floodplain manager to take over this structure and deal with this nuisance. We really appreciate all your efforts to do this work and to remove the dam. And as Herb mentioned, we think it's really, dam removal is the best thing, not only for the river, but for the taxpayer. So we support the removal. Thank you.
Next speaking in favor of, Mr. Paul Zovic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Paul Zovic. I reside at 2504 East Newton Avenue in Shorewood. I'm a 55-year resident of Milwaukee County and have lived and played and swam and fished in these waters of our rivers and lakes for my whole life. For the last 34 years, I've been an environmental professional working with engineers and scientists of all types as an owner, a manager, and a project leader on environmental and stormwater and water projects throughout our region. So I have not only that social appreciation for the river, but the technical and scientific appreciation. I've been a resident of Shorewood for 28 years, and I've seen firsthand the problems that we've had with flooding. I saw my neighbor's car float down the street a number of years ago in one of our major flooding events. And so I am very sensitive to and very appreciative of the need for smart, proactive stormwater management and water resource management in our region. I'm also a Village of Shorewood trustee, and I have been for several years. And I'm here today on behalf of the Village of Shorewood and the Shorewood Village Board. In 2015, the Shorewood Village Board unanimously passed a resolution in favor of complete removal of the Estabrook Dam. Our citizens fully support removal of the dam. We use the waters of the river, the lands immediately surrounding the river for all manners of recreation and education elements, and we do so support full removal. I really commend both the Commission and the county for the creative solution that we seem to be getting, hopefully, close to completing here. My trustee colleagues and I, as well as all of the residents that I've talked to, are really appreciative of a creative solution. We all see this as a positive move for the environment, a positive move for our ecology. Certainly no one can argue the financial benefits, and so I strongly urge you to continue this, and thank you very much for your action.
Next speaking in favor of is Jennifer Bolger. Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Jennifer Bolger. I'm the Executive Director of the Milwaukee Riverkeeper, and I just will echo my Riverkeeper Cheryl Nunn's statements. Address is 1845 North Farwell, Milwaukee. Thank you.
And last, speaking in favor of, Eric Peterson.
Mr. Chairman, members, Eric Peterson representing Milwaukee County Executive Chris Abley, the Courthouse Room 306, 901 North 9th Street, Milwaukee. Happy to be here today, happy for your honorable body taking up the committee's recommendation, which we support, endorsing the plan to remove the Estabrook Dam and to move forward into a transaction with the county upon the rezoning of that property. Just briefly, I think you've heard, and you folks certainly know, the ecological benefits of this dam. I just want to address the process and the issue of conservation of the public land that is Estabrook Park. The parcel that is in question is about 45 acres. Upon the rezoning and successful transfer of the dam, when the option is exercised by MMSD to purchase that property for $1, 45 acres will transfer instantaneously. We have a legal certainty with MMSD that 44.5 acres will come back to the county to be used for parkland purposes, and that remaining small sliver of land to remove the dam will be what MMSD owns for some time for removal of the dam, and then will be optioned back to the county. So I just wanted to assure the public and you that the county executive's intent, I believe the city of Milwaukee's intent as they take this issue up, and the intent that I believe you have is that this will remain public land to be used for park purposes and to come back into parkland zoning upon successful completion and removal of the dam. Certainly that is our intent. I wanted to assure you that. I'm happy to take any questions as you go throughout the day, and the county executive appreciates your support of the item.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Commissioner?
Here's Todd. Thank you. Just a couple of questions to get some clarification on the process that's taken place over quite some time. Couple things. Based on the state statute of parkland zoning, I'm curious as to how does the county exec, how does he, I guess, what is his take on if zoning for this land was looked at as parkland in 2015, I think June or July, if I'm not mistaken. And so there's no decision, to my understanding, that could be made to sell the land or do anything, any modification with it. Can you just explain it to me? Because I really am a little confused by how the state statute is working, and then how we're moving forward now on this decision. Also, I noticed that the state put some funding through the DNR to repair the dam. And so I want you to, just speak to that as well, because I know the county exec would be the person, well, I don't know, but I would assume that the county exec would be the individual that would actually draw down on those funds in order to actually get the work done. Would that be correct or not? You can answer that, once you...
Sure. To both questions, Commissioners, so the state statute that's operative was created in the 2015 state budget and essentially says that land zoned as non-park land on or before the effective date of that act moves to a separate three-person panel to sell that land. It is the plain language understanding of statute that nothing in the statute prevents any municipality or removes their home rule on changing their zoning. Nothing in that change in that state law said the city of Milwaukee cannot rezone, the city of Glendale can't rezone. So really what happened is the designation of parkland, which was always in the hands of municipalities, was clearly laid out that municipalities controlled their zoning, not the county. As we found out after that process, a big chunk of the parkland in the county was not zoned as parkland. There were many different designations across the way, even though we call it a park at the county. So we went through a process to rezone all those lands to parkland to sort of satisfy the statute and keep the full county board and legislative process involved in that. So, but nothing in the bill or in that law or in any part of state statute says the city of Milwaukee cannot take up rezoning, which they have started that process. The Plan Commission has endorsed that process, and that will continue through this coming week. So we view the law as the city of Milwaukee, the city of Glendale, Franklin, Hales Corners, Oak Creek, wherever you may be, municipalities can change their zoning at the time, which really puts to municipalities the power to declare what is conservation land for the use of park and what is not. So that's to your first question. On the DNR funding for the dam, there is monies available at the DNR in the dam fund. They are not specifically allocated to Estabrook. The DNR has not put them directly into Estabrook. It's a general fund available to all different dam removals. And so as of we understand as of yet, we've had no direct allocation to the county to make up the deficit that would be if we were to go forward with repair of the dam in the county funds, nor has the DNR given any indication that we would be getting all those funds. Personally, knowing some of the things about that fund, having worked in the state, obviously, I don't know that we've made such a grant that large before to one single dam project. We may have, but personal experience, I don't know that that has happened from the state's perspective.
Follow-up question. Have the county exec had a conversation with Senator Alberta Darling? Because to my understanding, I thought between her and Senator Taylor that they were the two individuals that actually allocated that money for the Estabrook Dam, since they kind of
the money is the money's in an appropriation from the budget, but DNR would be the one to allocate the money. So they may have asked for it, but we have received nothing from DNR that says there is money specifically targeted for Estabrook in this case. So I don't know if that's just a difference in nomenclature, but we've received no notification of a grant or funding made to the county.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner West.
Thanks for coming. In the public comments that we received at the committee, there was at least one concern expressed on the continued use of this land as park. I heard that clarified, you as a representative of the county executive, continuing as a park.
Absolutely.
Just want to make sure we get that in the record. Yep. There was a little lack of clarity just lack of clarity, and I think that I heard what I needed to hear, continued use as park.
Absolutely. The moment any of this land comes back to the county at any stage, whether it be the first big chunk or once the dam is removed, it is our complete intention to always to use it as park, but then also to seek the rezoning back to parkland consistent with the rest of the parkland inventory of the county.
Mr. West, follow up, please.
And related to that, I just want to compliment staff because the amended memorandum on this item is much clearer, and it really is working in tandem with what we heard from the county executive through his representative. So thank you.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes, I'd just like to add a comment that I look at this issue as a larger macro issue also. Milwaukee and the Metropolitan Sewerage District is developing Milwaukee as the water capital of the world. And this particular dam project flies in the face of all the environmental aspects of that, which hopefully will not hamper, if it's ever rebuilt, it will not hamper our ability to be a world leader on environmental issues. And that's my comment.
Mr. Peterson, I think you can step down now unless the commission has further comments to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion from the commission? Seeing, Commissioner Hairston.
Thank you. I think it's fair that I do make a statement just to talk about the reason I will be voting against this particular, I guess, I want to say bill, but I know we don't do bills here, but commission resolution. Thank you. And I just want you guys to know why, having served on the county board, I voted for repairing the dam twice. And so I also came to the commission and supported being a part of the lawsuit that was in play at the time. And so I guess today I'm a little torn because of the decisions that I've had to make, and feel that the best way for me to continue with my integrity as someone who has supported the refunding or the repairing of it is that I have to vote against this resolution today. And so, like I said, I felt like I owe you all an explanation and not to just vote no, and you don't know why I did that. So that's why I'm explaining myself on today. So thank you.
Commissioner, further comments, discussion? Mr. Martin,
I just have a quick question. You know, our beer made from effluent won the awards at the previous water conference. I'm wondering, while we have a beer garden, if this goes through, I would just encourage you to look for some marketing opportunities. For the beer garden, so.
All right, further discussion? Commissioner West.
I believe that the memo says that we will immediately quit claims, so I think that if we can't get a beer garden there in the blink of an eye, the county will have to do it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
See no further comment. We have the question on the table. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Thank you. The motion is carried. One in opposition, and is now so ordered. Is there further business from the Policy Finance Personnel Committee?
That will conclude the report from the Policy Finance Personnel Committee.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of clarification, if I might. On items 7 and 8, adopting the O&M and adopting the capital budget, just so that the record clearly reflects those are adoption actions of the amended budget that was approved by the committee on both actions.
Would you like some form of official action?
No, nope, just wanted a statement clarifying.
All right, then on items, move on to the Executive Director's Report. Item 16003-1.
Good morning, Commissioners. We've got 3 items. The first is Jerome Flogel. He's providing the semi-annual report for the private property inflow and infiltration. We have one handout to go along with his presentation.
Morning, Commissioners. Jerome Flogel, Senior Project Manager for the District, Private Property Inflow and Infiltration Program. The presentation I'm going to give today is, I would call it an administrative summary and kind of a preview of the year ahead, or at least the next 6 months in the private property program. As we've discussed in the last few reports, we're just about ready to wrap up year 6 of the program, and there's a lot of activity and thoughts and experience gained. There's also a lot of thought about what happens after 2020, because as hard as it is to believe that we're approaching November, it's also hard to believe that 2020 is just around the corner really as well. So kind of a standard slide we have here, just giving a program update by the numbers. There's about 5 work plans here since I last reported in April. That's down a little bit, but fairly significant activity in those work plans. So even though we only had 5, we had about 443 construction properties and about $3.8 million worth of work committed for the last 6-month period. I do want to note that these numbers and the financial numbers to come are through October 18th, 2016. 2017 budget's not reflected in here yet, of course, because we just approved 2017 budget. And then there's about a 3-month lag before we have the equalized value formulas in, and then we are able to actually distribute that budget to the 28 municipalities. So again, on the administrative side, a few changes I want to bring to your attention is it will indicate a few things that you'll be seeing next couple of months. One is we've made some significant progress. It's been an ongoing effort, and it's one of the challenges we've had here with a new program that is extensive, and it is a little bit on the cutting edge and frontier of work that we do out there in the collection system nationwide, frankly. Some good reflections on that just coming back from 2 presentations that we actually gave on the program in New Orleans at WEFTEC a couple weeks ago. So one of those changes is we've made some significant progress in how we manage the data. So we're working towards a little closer to have real-time data. That is on the financial end of it, but one of the biggest struggles we've had is the work completed and the reporting of that work completed and having that in a timely manner. So if you are paying attention to number by number in this chart, you're going to see some illogical fluctuations as we go to some of these numbers. It's just where we capture them in time, and some of it is just kind of work plans approved. And as we get closer in some of these numbers to actually tracking the actual work done, there's going to be some minor fluctuations in this just because of the kind of the time frame shift in which we capture that data. It's good news. It just gives us much more nimble, flexible, and real-time reporting, and also working towards having real-time data available that assist the district and other programs, which are all closely related to private property, such as wet weather peak flow management program, water quality, budget, and then just GIS graphing. We have a very robust GIS group here that has a lot of powerful tools and skill in graphing, and to be able to put those maps out real time is a real benefit to everybody here. So on the financial side of this, you do have a handout as you requested, and it is useful, that lists these numbers municipality by municipality. It's just a little more information than one can digest here in the time we have available today on a slide. So those are certainly there for your questions. And again, as we get to a little closer to real-time data and some changes I'm going to indicate here related to this slide, there'll be some illogical fluctuations. I'll point out one of those. The last report, it was caught that, for instance, the village of Shorewood had a negative balance, and that got to be just in the accounting a little bit, getting caught up in work plans, closing them out, and properly allocating those funds. So that's just one indication, a little thing that gets cleaned up in here, and how these numbers can fluctuate illogically sometimes. So total cumulative to date, again, just through the end of 2016 budget, it's about $40.1 million. We have total work plans approved, so that's the request that the municipalities submit before any work starts. Basically, gives us a chance to review. Is that work consistent with the policy we approve? Comes to a funding agreement. About $25 million that has been requested. And then the far right column is total reimbursed. So that's the actual money that the work is complete. They've sent a reimbursement request to us, or it's gone out through an actual invoice through one of our contracts. And that's money that's actually gone out the door. The gap between the 41 million and the 25 million is a little bit inherent, as we've discussed in the past, to the program and the way we distribute the value on an equalized ad valorem basis. There's just always going to be a lag there. Municipalities that need to accumulate some money. We have 28 municipalities operating in very different environments politically, as well as the age of their system. So some of the municipalities are spending the money as fast as we can get it to them. Some of the municipalities takes a little more effort to get a policy in place, get the things approved through their local boards, and find where the priorities are and spend the money. So there's always going to be that lag just due to the structure of the program. The one that we're trying to close a little bit here is the gap between the approved work plans and the total reimbursements. This gap between the 25 million and the actual spent 16 million. A couple reasons for that. One of the efforts, which you'll probably see a few amendments on in the next few months, there's some significant amount of funding agreements out there and work plans that are completed in the way that the program is, where they ask for the money first based on estimates of cost of work. Good news is it can pretty consistently, the work gets done cheaper than they think it's going to get done. So there's some money hanging out there in work plans, 6 years accumulated, some effort in that, but a little push in trying to clean that up is getting that money back into the fund, the 41 million that's available, so that they can dedicate that to further work plans ahead. The other, one of the significant causes for that big gap is there's several work plans out here due to policy issues, due to other priorities and infrastructure deterioration coming up, just the fact that we're 6 years removed from serious flooding and memories fade a little bit. We've got several $1 million in work plans approved out there that just have never been implemented. So working with them to follow up to see if they intend to do that, if we need to rededicate those funds, trying to find out the reasons and why that's stalled. So some cleanup work there to close that $25 million to $16 million gap a little bit. Changes in progress as far as working with municipalities. Again, trying to identify the reasons of why some of that is installed and trying to get some of the work moving that is stalled. And that's an indication, again, of the work plans that we have before us in the last 6 months. Some pretty significant work plans there and quite a bit of work coming up here in the next 6 months. So, and the administrative and the policy side of this, there's going to be quite a bit going on in the next 6 months. It's going to be fairly busy. And we have several things here that the district does, just as a recap, that we do to support the program. Kind of added value, I'd put it. There are the engineering it's an engineering contract that we have. We do have a contract that we did procure at the beginning of the program that provides engineering services to the municipalities if they so choose to use that for creating their policy and ordinance, doing design work or construction services or follow-up metering analysis to see how the work is performing. Several municipalities, they're free to choose their own consultant if they sort of choose to do so, but they also have the engineering contract to use if they would like. That engineering contract is also there for our staff to use if we want some technical support. Things are moving very fast in this field, and we rely on that same contract for district advice and services and engineering related as we need support. That contract is coming to a close here pretty soon financially. I'm just about exhausted, so I'll get into the details of that a little bit on how we're going to handle that next 6 months. The lateral inspection contract, we have a contract with National Power Auditing, again, set up front. We knew that most municipalities would want to get out and try to prioritize this work, and we tried to expedite that to make it as simple as possible. It was used pretty heavily in the first couple of years, but as municipalities kind of have settled in the groove, some of them are comfortable, they know where the priorities are at. Many of them have selected to use their own contractors. The need for that contractor is kind of diminished, so I'll talk a little bit more about that in detail. The public outreach and education contracts, we do have a contract for those services for municipalities to use or for us if we need assistance. We have information library out there where we do keep an inventory of work plans, funding agreements, technical standards for municipalities to use, trying to keep everybody current with the work that's going on there and the lessons learned so they're not reinventing the wheel 28 times. We have an arsenal of meters out there that we make available for municipalities to use if they want to track the progress or do pre-metering. And we also have the website. So those kind of listed in priority, and I'm going to work through those kind of backwards, if you will. So under the category kind of number 3, the internal engineering support that we offer, the information library, metering website, we keep that up to date as we move forward. No major changes with that. And we do have a bit of a balance left on the public outreach contract that we're utilizing. So no major changes in that in the next 6 months. So the lateral inspection contract we have with National Power Auditing, there's a significant balance and funding available on that. We've been through 3 amendments on that, just extending the length of time on that contract, but there's just not much utilization of that anymore. I'm going to be working with TAT to make sure that everybody is comfortable with letting that expire, but I intend to let that expire at the end of the year. There may be some need based on just the way the program has developed and kind of matured in the 6 years. Maybe there's a contract there that better fits our needs for right now as far as investigative services, but this contract is really outdated. The current engineering contract with Brown and Caldwell, this one's a little more complicated. Again, financially, we've met or exceeded the term of the life, I guess, cycle of that contract that we anticipated. Probably stretched it a little further than we anticipated it might look like, the way the services were needed and we were spending the money in the first year or two, but we are reaching the end of that contract. A lot of discussions internally and with the consultant as far as renewing that contract. This is a significant size contract. It's been about $3 million worth of work anticipated as part of the 2017 budget that we needed to allocate about $1.5 million going forward to get us through the next 5 years. So with that, the shifts in the type of work that need to be done under this contract, the need from a SWMB standpoint, many of the SWMB sub-consultants that came on with this contract have either been sold out, have changed names, have gone on to other types of work. Just in general, it looks like it's better just to go out with a new RFP on this and just revise. What we realized going into that, and we are in progress of putting that RFP together, is that the 28 municipalities do rely on this contract, and there's a lot of work in progress out there, and there's no clean break as far as when this contract retires based on our terms and when the municipalities are done with it. So we have this body of work floating out there in progress. I've had the discussions with the municipalities. I believe there's 4 or 5 of them. They prefer to finish the work that they have in progress. So there is an amendment that you will see in November that is going to extend this contract and put a little bit more money towards that to complete that scope of work that's in progress. So there will be that amendment, and then we will go out with an RFP to go out and basically freshen up this contract going forward in the next 6 months. So just a little summary on the policy topic. As authorized by Commission in 2011, we did dedicate $62 million as this funding for the next 10 years. That, as we've talked about through here, this presentation, that is distributed to 28 municipalities the same way that we collect our capital budget, same basis. So every 28 municipality has an opportunity to utilize this funding. An important key to this going forward is we want to get a lot of construction done and not a lot of paperwork sitting on the shelf. So a 20% cap was set on that funding for planning, design, and investigative work. The rest has to go to construction. No requirement for cost share, another big piece that did change early on when we were putting the policy together. And as a part of that cost share and other aspects of this policy, we tried to keep as much flexibility in municipalities as possible to make it work for them on the local level, which is key to the private property work. A couple revisions we've had in the policy in the 6 years to date. In 2012, based on experience where we'd go into homes and we had consent of the homeowner and a promise to them as far as either a no cost or they had a defined cost of what this would be to them. We're in the home, the homeowner's taking a day off work. Inevitably, we find things that are illegal connections, but they're Clearwater related. And there's just a big need to keep things moving and to just minimize disruption of the homeowner. Just to come to some agreement as far as how we're going to treat illegal connections. And we did say that we would raise that to 50%. We would cost share with them so we could get through these hurdles on a day-to-day basis in the field. Public storm sewers, basically wrapped around foundation drains. We need to come up with a little more flexibility to facilitate areas where a foundation drain sump pump didn't just discharge to the yard. There's just too much housing densely developed in this area that's not always an option. So we came to a compromise as far as how we'd fund public storm sewers as related directly to private property water. In December 2013, we made a revision to this cap. We do have several municipalities that have a cost share out there. It wasn't fair to them. If you looked at the numbers, somebody that has significant cost share, they're kind of tying their hands as far as the amount of money available if they are spending construction of their own dollars. So we initiated a compromise whereby for every $4 of construction they spend on their side, we give them another $1 in cap. We raise their cap balance. In the last year through the TAT, looking ahead and a few things on policy related, we will most likely have another policy revision before you in the next 6 months. There is, again, additional talk as far as how we treat these illegal connections and the storm system. There are several municipalities that they feel that that's still a burden to them. They have some priorities in their municipalities that they'd like to address, and they'd like a revision on that. We're working through that internally. We're working through it through a subcommittee of the TAT, trying to come up with a policy that everybody can agree to. So I anticipate there'll be an element of that. Part of that policy revision, we'll have to be looking forward beyond 2020 and some type of a frame looking to the future. I think there'll be an initial view of that, and then it'll be the long-term view. The initial view is we're already out now into the longer-term budget window where we have to start looking to set some funds aside if we want this program to continue after 2020. So we need some placeholders in there, at least for funding, so it's in there in the budget. We can't just wait till 2020 to do that. The primary guidance that is desired as far as what the policy looks like after 2020, I would really like to be driven by the 2050 facilities plan. We're looking at this asset management-based facilities plan 2050. We're doing some specific work right now related to private property and the cost, true cost to everybody, kind of looking without blinders on from the homeowner and the municipality as far as what basement backups do actually cost everybody. So looking at some kind of out-of-the-box, district-wide, kind of triple bottom line cost for private property as well as other things when we look at 2050 facilities plan. So we'd like guidance out of that would be consistent on how the private property program does fit within all the things that we do at the district going forward. So there'll be some things you'll see coming in the next 6 months policy related. So a lot of information thrown at you there. I would certainly entertain any questions you may have related to any of that.
Questions from the commission? Very thorough report, Jerome. Thank you.
Yep.
Kevin had to step out for just a second. Mike, you're going to take over.
Yeah, I'll take the next two items. That's okay.
Please.
First is another piece of recognition that the district recently received in September. We became recognized as a water resource utility of the future. And this is a joint recognition by NACWA, WRF, Water Environment Federation, and Water Reuse, and it's to the district. Bottom line is for innovative and forward-thinking practices that are providing sustainable, efficient, and value-added services to their community. So we received this at WEFTEC in September. We were one of, I think, 60-plus communities that received this recognition. So it's nice to be recognized by peers. So I'll pass that around.
Mr. West?
Didn't I see a banner in the hallway?
Yes, there's also a flag
proclaiming that
banner in the hallway that calls, again, it's utility of the future. So.
Thank you.
And the last item is staff recognition. Fortunately, these are all staff in Technical Services Division. We wanted to recognize some milestones of some district staff, so they're all in the audience today. So I'm going to have each of them stand as I call their name and talk just briefly about what they recently did. First, Courtney Allen. Courtney, you're going to stand up. Courtney's been with the district for about 11 years. He's a senior project manager. He started out in the field as a resident engineer, and he just recently passed his obtained his professional engineer's license in the state of Wisconsin, which is, for us engineers, that's a milestone for us. It's an important hurdle for us to pass, and opens up doors for further opportunities with professionally. So Courtney just recently moved to our watercourse section. Again, he's been out in the field for quite a few years. This summer he moved to the watercourse section. He's currently managing the demolition and deconstruction projects on the KK River. He's helping managing our vegetation maintenance program, and another big project he's working on is Wilson Park Creek. So recognize Courtney for that. He's adjusting to being out in the field all the time to dressing up and being here in the office. First I've seen him in a suit and tie for a while. So thanks, Courtney. And next, Mark Brunner. Mark is fairly recent to the district, 1.5 years. He's an electrical engineer, so he talks a different language. Most of us are civil or environmental engineers. And he's been with us for 1.5 years, electrical engineer. And he also just recently obtained his professional engineer license here in the state of Wisconsin. So he's working on a number of electrical projects here at the district focused on the water reclamation facilities. So he's adjusting to life here at the district after only being here a short period of time. Thanks, Mark. And then last, Jennifer Wright. Jennifer's been with the district for 17 years, and she's had her PE for quite a few years. And she just recently passed her Certified Floodplain Manager certification. So that's a testing process that she's had to go through. It's the Association of State Floodplain Managers. She's worked on a lot of projects over the years, including Lincoln Creek way back when, and she's currently working on our Western Milwaukee Flood Management Project, our Oak Creek Watershed Restoration Plan. And while Jerome's worked on the 30th Street project, his focus recently has been on the east side. Jennifer's managing the west side of the railroad, so that side of the project. So she's taken on that challenging project. So again, want to recognize Jennifer for that milestone in her career. So thanks for giving us an opportunity to recognize these steps.
And I don't know if Mike, I'm sorry I had to leave, but I'm not sure Mike said it or not, but it was an idea of Mike's that we start recognizing staff for some of these key moments, and I thought it was a really good idea, and it's great to have 3 to start the process. So on the other item, I saw you've got the award. If there's any confusion, a year and a half ago, we received that award from NACWA, and then the other associations around the country decided that it should be a national award from all of them. So you'll notice this one has all 4 associations on it. So I always say we were the first because we got the first one from NACWA, but now we're one of 64 or so that I think received it. So it's a huge honor. The banner's outside. We put it out there so that visitors could see it as well. And it really goes to all the great work that the Commission's done. And you took a great action today in that same vein. So thank you very much.
Is that all for the Executive
That's
Director's
it.
report?
And no closed session.
Motion to adjourn is in order.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
An MCM production.